Welcome everyone to the next episode of Impactables with Rishabh. Today I have Sarat with me, a chief architect working at BigBasket, and over past 20 years he's been into a techie actually. Welcome Sarat.
Hi Rishabh, nice to meet you.
Same here. So Sarat, can you just tell me a bit about yourself, how your journey has been, where you from, and how did you get into this particular architecture role in the world of technology?
Yeah, I did my engineering back in the year, finished it in the year 2002 from Osmania University, Hyderabad. That's when, I think during those 4 years, I spent a lot of time with computers and programming. And that's when I realized that I wanted to be a techie and a software engineer for life. So the love for computers and software started then. And since then, I've worked in multiple places. And out of all the roles you can play in sort of the software industry, being close to code, running systems, operationalizing them, and working with engineers gives me the most sort of pleasure. So I've stuck to that, and there were choices at times to get into more of management sort of roles. I dabbled a bit in product management and things like that, but I realized I'm much better being close to engineering, and I've stuck in that role, and then the growth to architect, and that sort of naturally happened. So it wasn't like a big plan, but just one thing led to the other.
But you stuck to the technology part itself.
Yes. I think that was the key reason why I'm where I am.
But can you tell me one thing, like it's been 20-25 years I think for you, no?
Yeah.
But now suddenly this 4-5 years, it's all about AI everywhere.
Yeah.
Previously people used to literally write the code, people used to literally search the internet, learn, and then used to write the code.
True.
Today so many things are automated. And so do you feel like, how do you feel about this AI buzzword which is happening, and how did you implemented AI in your life, and do you think like too much of AI is also a problem?
Yeah. So I think I can go back in time a little bit. When the days when I started coding, like we used to even work in software offices where we didn't have internet access because people were afraid that code would leak and things like that. And in order to develop code, we used to read books, reference manuals to understand the APIs, and then look at that and write code. And then we started getting full-fledged IDEs with autocomplete. So when first we moved from that world to a fully internet-based world, and we started using Stack Overflow and Google and full-fledged IDEs for development. That itself was a huge productivity unlock. What we are seeing now is again a similar shift, if I can call it that, and this has happened in programming over the last several decades, every 10-15 years or so, right? There used to be machine language, assembly language, and then people went to higher level languages. But what seems to be different in AI in this particular phase is that other than simply improving efficiency in what you do, it completely eliminates some of the things you need to do with the AI taking over the work that you typically would do. And that is remarkable, right? Like the very idea that you can give in a few prompts of what you want, and there can be working code and a system that runs coming out of it in like 2 minutes. I think this is sort of a technology sort of jump that I haven't seen in the last 25 years. So I'm very excited by what's happening. Having said that, I don't think it replaces engineers or architects or any particular role as of yet. It changes how you work, and there are some tasks which are highly automatable by AI, but there are certain areas where AI barely helps you and you still need to put in your own efforts. So I think it's still early days in this sort of transition.
But why this entire wave, or like I would say, like people are saying that for the developers so many jobs are going due to the AI.
Yeah.
But I also believe that a developer is still doing a code, they are taking help of AI. But why this entire communication in the market, if I talk about?
Yeah, I mean, people are talking about replacing engineers with AI. I think it also depends on what those engineers who are being replaced were doing, right? If you are simply, developing small scripts or manually running jobs or doing, software operations, right? Like monitoring a database and then moment you see an issue, you're restarting it or doing things like that. Now, those kind of repeatable tasks can be quite easily replaced by agentic AI, automated by agentic AI, and even those may not be in the entirety, right? Like to give a typical example, you used to have call center associates who respond on text,
Correct.
right? The chatbot. Now, today, out of 100 such chatbot sessions, probably AI resolves
Correct.
90%.
90% of the
There's still
conversations.
those 10% hard problems where the AI will end up frustrating the customer. So what happens is that you still need a human. It's not fully replaced a human, but then where you needed 10 associates, you probably are doing with
Two
two
or
associates
three.
in an AI based system. And so that is what is happening. That if you had a UI team of 7 developers, maybe now you're able to do it with 3 developers and AI. Similarly, if you had a design team with 10 members, you can probably do it with 6 and AI. So in that sense, for those impacted, like you can say that AI has replaced that particular job,
Got it.
but the job role itself has not been fully automated by AI. And there are roles like, for example, if I am a software developer who's working on a 6-year-old code base with 40 APIs and 7 databases, the amount of knowledge of that code base, what's documented, what's not documented, what's in the code, that context that the human has, the AI, however intelligent it is, even if we have perfect intelligence, AGI has been reached, this context is not available with the AI. So you still need a human to use the AI to get the outputs that you want.
Exactly.
So that is where there's also the entire segment of jobs that remain untouched by AI, whose productivity is only improving.
But this all new engineers who graduated in this suppose past 5-6 years. I also graduated in 2019.
Yeah.
But I am not. I did engineering, but I didn't pursue engineering. So, but these 4-5 are the recent graduates actually. So they are the most ones who keep thinking a lot that
Right.
for them actually what are the new things which they also need to know that even if AI is there, they will still be a valuable asset for a company. Like anything which they should know or no.
If you are in the software engineering role, you should still know how computers work, right? You should know how operating systems work, how networking works, how databases works. I think only then you can even give the right prompts to an AI on what to build and how to build, right? Like you still need that basic CS fundamentals required to build software that is meets performance expectations, that's always up and running. So I think that is non-negotiable. Second thing is, today, let's say I ask AI to generate code and I deploy it and it breaks in production, right? I cannot tell my customers that it's not my fault, it's AI's fault. I still take ownership of the code that is generated and I'm responsible for deployment. So even if you're not writing code, you should be able to understand the code that is generated, make sure that it's meeting your expectations, verify it for bugs, verify it for correctness, and so on. So you still need coding skills with or without AI. And apart from these two, I think where AI will struggle and software engineers continue to play a role is when the code bases are large, spanning across teams. There's a lot of hidden knowledge, there's a lot of context that is not present in one system. You still need to be a team player. You should be able to communicate with your customers, with your clients, empathize with the needs of what a business or a user needs, and identify what are the product needs, what are the system needs, work across teams, collaborate. And these soft skills or interpersonal skills, these continue to make a difference in the industry. So I think a lot of what you need to be a successful software engineer, I don't think it has changed too much. I think the emphasis on ability to write code, that has reduced a little bit, Now it's if your fundamentals are strong and if you can make a AI write code for you, you're as good as being like, it doesn't matter who wrote the code. So I think that is one change. And I think the other thing change is that earlier there was a lot of emphasis on how much you know.
Ah.
Like walking into a meeting, your prior knowledge of the subject, the domain, the technology had a big impact on how you performed, right? Whether in a meeting or on job, on particular project. Now you have access to all the intelligence just a few prompts away. Like you could be working on a completely new technology that you've never worked on before, and you're thrown that problem at you, and you can use AI as sort of a buddy. Start shooting questions, sharing context, running ideas, and very soon ramp up. And I feel that's giving a lot of confidence to engineers to take on harder problems than they would have typically taken on in the past.
Correct.
So now a backend engineer is willing to build a UI engineer is willing to build backend. Someone who's never wrote a ML program is building an ML model. So it's sort of engineers are getting empowered to do more and more because they know that there's AI with them, and if there is a blocker or something, they can find help. So that sort of dependency on few knowledgeable individuals is sort of reducing, and you don't need to now attend a full semester course to learn something. You can do this very pointed deep dive. Okay, I want to solve this particular problem, and then start discussing with AI, figure out what needs to be done and deliver.
Very interesting, actually. How things got changed, you explained in a very interesting way. But for you as an individual, how much of AI, like people use Claude a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Claude. Then there's one more. I forgot the name, actually. People use a lot of tools actually to help them code, actually.
That's right.
So in that particular case, do you see how many in your scenario? How much AI do you use personally?
I use it a lot. In fact, all day I'm like with ChatGPT or one Cursor or one of these tools, right?
I forgot the name, actually.
So I use it quite extensively. Not just at work, like even in my personal life, like I use it extensively. If I'm in the kitchen and I need to cook something, and now earlier you go to recipe websites, but the problem there is it has a predefined set of ingredients and 3 of them you don't have in the kitchen, and so you're not sure
what to cook.
But with GPT, I can say, okay, I want to make bhindi masala, but I don't have onions. How can I make it?
Okay, and this prompt.
Yeah, and then it can give me suggestions. Okay, if you don't have onion, you can still make it with tomato or something like that. So like AI has become like a constant.
This I should also try, actually.
Conversation. So yeah, AI is great in the kitchen. By the way, you should try it. But other than that, at work, right? I think. Typically, I use AI to build a lot of quick prototypes. So there's a problem, I need to try out something, and instead of visiting, the documentation websites, identifying how to install something and how to, get it working, AI is great at bootstrapping the required setup before you start doing the actual work. So typically, if you're starting a new work with a new database and a new application server, it probably takes you about 3-4 hours just to set up your environment. Correct. Right? Get all the Docker images, connect them together, wire them up together. With AI, this kind of thing gets reduced to like 30 minutes at most. So you can, the moment there's a problem, you can take it on in the first place. So that is one way I use it. The second thing is like again, when there's a pointed problem, okay, like this database, I'm not able to improve the performance. So I just throw that problem at AI and it immediately starts giving up a bunch of options. Check this configuration, try this, try that. Now all of them may not be relevant, but at least they've given a starting point for me to begin the investigation.
Begin the things.
Okay, this doesn't seem relevant, but this seems to be an area. So a lot of my work that goes into performance and scale troubleshooting, AI gives me like a good sounding board to get started in doing my work. And finally, in my role, like my span is across 20 plus teams. Each team is developing their own software, And if I have to understand some code or some system, I'm almost always looking at code that I've never looked at previously before, right? And I use Cursor a lot, less for actual coding, but more for code understanding.
Understood.
So I just open up the workspace in Cursor and I start chatting with the code. I'm like, okay, explain this call flow. And then it generates the, then I ask a very pointed question and then I compare it with the code. So that way I'm able to understand.
It reduces a lot of time.
A lot of your cognitive overload, it sort of reduces. Things become very intense also. Because what used to earlier be over a 3-4 day period, it's got super compressed in 2 hours, and then so you're very tired at the end of these exercises. But then the productivity unlock is tremendous.
Because this one problem which I also used to have, like obviously everyone used to tell that if you are transferring one project to another person, understanding the project itself, the documentation, be it the project is properly documented, then too they need to go to the code base, and it used to take them 3-4 days every time. And someone used to, if someone does it very slow, it takes around 6-7 days for them.
True.
So that thing has reduced a lot in order to understand the previous projects, what the previous person has done.
Yeah.
Previously, documentation was very important.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if the person is not even making a documentation, people are able to understand what is the thing that is written by this person and all.
True. And another thing that I've observed is that, let's say earlier you used to think of Java developers as a separate pool, Node developers as a separate pool, Python developers as a separate pool. But now SDs are very interchangeable because programming, you understand the basics of
Okay, now these specialization things
this
are not
specialization. There's still language specific constructs that you need to learn, but then the sort of the friction is much reduced because you have AI as a helper, and so you can very quickly bridge the gap between the language versus the new language that you're working on, and get productive.
Interesting. So there was one interesting summit you attended, which was Aerospike Summit.
Yeah.
And over there you spoke about the BigBasket journey of building the category into the quick commerce, multi-category quick commerce, and that was handling multi-millions QPS. What was the challenge behind implementing that or changing that? Because this quick commerce boom came a lot.
Right.
And so many companies are there. BigBasket also moved towards it. So that was, how did you manage to do that?
See, BigBasket moving to quick commerce, it's been a multi-year effort, right? And we still today we are majorly a quick commerce business. You can think about it that way. And also there was a point in time where BigBasket had a strong association with grocery and grocery adjacent categories.
Exactly.
And today we are a much broader assortment with pretty much most of the common categories available. So it's taken the team about 2-3 years of continuous effort to make this pivot. And we can keep talking about every nuance of what work was done. But I'll just talk about a couple of high-level challenges that sort of give you the flavor of things. One purely on the engineering side. Now imagine earlier BigBasket had a slotted delivery model.
Correct.
Where you order and then you choose, okay, I want it tomorrow morning 6 a.m.
I used to do this in college actually.
Right? So in that kind of a world, what orders you're going to get in the future because we are giving slots for the future. And hence, because the demand is for later, you can react to the demand, right? There is more time for reaction. So, okay, I've received so many orders for tomorrow morning. So let me get the inventory. Let me get, let's say, all the vegetables, all the groceries, whatever is needed. The previous day, you know all the orders for the next day. And then you can plan for it and you can deliver it. In quick commerce, from order placement, you have less than, the clock is ticking right away, right? And in 10 minutes, you need to deliver to the customer. So a lot of planning systems need to be predictive, right? You need to know before you receive the orders for the day, how many orders are you likely to receive, so that you stock up your warehouses and your dark stores with, that kind of inventory. So that is one aspect of how the supply chain
and
changes.
This might have took a lot of effort in order to make this particular thing work, right?
A lot of these things are iterative. So you start with a rough model. You can use yesterday's data as a sort of indicator of what today's sale will be and start as that as the baseline. And then you start adding more intelligence, capturing more signals. Like, okay, is it a today is a Sunday, so people buy more on Sunday. So that is one indicator, right? The day of the week. Then there is seasonality. So people buy different fruits and different like products in different times of the year. Then there are events and festivities. So and there's the period of the month. The shopping behavior at the beginning of the month is different from shopping behavior at the end of the month. So our models use each of these signals, and over a period of time they start because we have large enough demand signal, right? Like there's quite a few orders per day. They learn the patterns, and then they become pretty good at predicting at a dark store level what is the kind of demand that we can expect, and then we use that prediction to plan the inventory ahead of time. So yeah, so it's a continuous activity. I won't say you'll never get done with these. There's always a scope for improvement, and so it's continuing. The journey is continuing on those lines.
So this was one of the aspect of how
Yeah.
did this happen.
And then on the system side, right? Like let's say if you are doing only scheduled delivery, you can always have a 10-minute outage. Like if some service goes down, then you page the on call comes up, brings it back, 10 minutes, everything's working. There's hardly any impact on customers or delivery. Okay, there's a 10-minute delay, but because you're doing every hour, you still have time to catch up. But on the other hand, when your promise itself is 10 minutes, even a few seconds delay, right, in processing an order can cause a backlog that causes you to eventually fail the customer promise. So you promise the customer that we'll deliver in 10 minutes. So every second counts. So our warehouse management systems, our last mile delivery systems, all of these had to be re-architected in a way that there is very minimal lag in processing customer requests and fulfilling them. So that is another aspect, and ensuring that systems never go down.
And all these quick commerce companies mostly make their own warehouse management systems, right?
I would assume so. I'm
Okay.
sure. I think that's a mix. At least in BigBasket, it is now, I think 80-90% of our
Own.
software is homegrown in at least the main business flow. But we also use supporting third-party software in various aspects like content generation, accounting, so on and so forth. But the core supply chain and the customer-facing systems are entirely homegrown. And I would assume, because there is so much innovation going on, bringing in a third-party vendor, then either you accept that system as it is,
Correct.
or if you want that vendor to respond, because a lot of times for us, from the time the business decides to try out something and we implementing it, right, we need to get it done in a matter of like weeks. It's very difficult to get this with a third party off the shelf software, these kind of flexibility, and that's why it's like works out better to have our own software.
Interesting. So there's a couple of things which helped this to migrate or scale this particular thing.
And then the third aspect, which is again an ongoing aspect, is like, let's say if people have traditionally come to your app looking for groceries, looking for a certain kind of product, and now you have expanded into other categories, right? Now you have electronics, now you have clothes, now you have a whole bunch of household equipment, stationery. But how does the customer get to know that you have all these things?
Correct.
Because the customer's surface with you is still a small screen. So we had to revamp the entire app experience to what earlier was a very simple category-based browsing into like a very dynamic homepage where we sort of do a lot of communication to customers on what products are available, what deals are available. We try to understand the customer's persona and buying intent and create a shopping journey that is customized to your needs, and that also allows us to communicate to you what our products and services are. And so there's a fair bit of like change in customer journey that the app has gone through, which required quite a bit of engineering effort. And then it's a continuous journey. Now we are trying to see how do we get more personalization, more sort of ML and AI in that space so that we are able to show you what you want to see, and we let sort of help you discover all the products and services that we have to offer.
Then in this whole process of any quick commerce or like e-commerce, this search button plays a very important role. Like when we search something, I get a recommendation of some different things also.
Yeah.
So how much effort does it go in order to keep improving that search experience? Because that is very interesting thing which I have seen in every app. If I search something, I get very different recommendations of different products.
Yeah.
And it's all I've witnessed that in across different apps.
Right.
And not every app gives me same suggestions.
Yeah, I think product discovery and search is, I think, one of those areas, and it's not just even e-commerce, right? Like I think the companies that have cracked this to the best are, say, TikTok and Insta. Like they know what to serve you to keep you hooked, right?
Correct.
Without so trying to find what you as a user, what is your sort of personality, not exactly personality, but what are your attributes, and then what is your past history, what do you like, what do you dislike, and triangulating that with what is the new content that you might like. I think there's a lot of science behind it, and it continues to evolve with Gen AI and newer ML models coming in. But in sort of online commerce, this is what we call, something called exploration versus exploitation. So for example, when you're searching for something, it's very important that we show relevant result. So when you're searching for a particular product, I'm searching for potatoes. You cannot be showing something irrelevant. I cannot say, okay, there's iPhone and there's a deal, right?
But when I saw potato, it comes potato chips also.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? So potato chips, there might be a affinity there where people search for potato and they still expect to see potato chips. You definitely don't expect to see like an iPhone or a cricket ball. Correct. Or something. So and even if there's a great deal that I want to show Rishabh, I do not want to. If I do it while you're searching for potatoes, you're probably lose trust with that feature.
But I have seen one app when I search potato, they show onion also.
And because like it's also depends on the user journey, right? If you take this for example, once you searched for potato, what are you most likely to do next? Onion. Right? Like and if you're going to continue to shop for vegetables, then what are those most likely vegetables? So today, like for example, in this very specific case, in BigBasket, potato is mapped to all vegetables also. So when you search potatoes, surely potato comes up on top. But then if you keep browsing the search results, literally all the other fruits and vegetables also will eventually come up. So and that is also because that is the historical shopping journey, where people have started with bread or potato and egg, and then gone on to purchase sort of other related things. So our system learns this mapping that when a user searches this keyword, eventually he or she tends to add these SKUs, and hence there's a sort of affinity that is mapped between this keyword and the products. And over time, this shopping behavior gets encapsulated in the way we serve the search results. So yeah, it's an ever very significant fraction of our final conversion, right? Like from browsing to finally adding to cart and checking out happens through search. So search is like a very critical shopping journey. It's a very critical feature, and continuing to improve search results. What do you do when what the user is searching is not there in your catalog? So that's a common use case, right? People come to the platform and they're looking for something, you don't have it. So do you just show a blank page, or do you say, okay, we don't have this, but instead we have this?
That's a very bad experience.
Right? So yeah, you don't want to show a blank page, but then very often you may not have exact thing, but you may have something similar. Then you should be able to identify and map those products. And sometimes you want to say that, okay, we don't have it, maybe we'll get it for you next time. But in the meanwhile, do you want to browse these? So there's like, it's a evolving space, and we continue to do a lot of experiments there. A lot of what we finally do, it's a result of A/B tests.
Okay.
So there's no wrong and right here on what you should show when a user searches for something. We just try out different things, we run experiments, we collect the feedback, and what gives us most engagement, what gives us most conversion typically, is what stays as the final behavior that we go ahead with.
Interesting. But just like social media, in e-commerce also, does my past shopping, whatever I have ordered in the past, say suppose 10 orders, 50 products, does that also impact like different users getting different results in the search?
Yes, I mean, so typically the plain vanilla search is simply trying to take your keyword, and then based on that trying to find the most
basic
relevant.
websites do that only.
But that's where it starts. But then if I know that you're typically purchasing certain products, why not rank it on top?
Okay.
So this is where ranking comes in, and we might boost the products which have a past purchase history. Second thing is, even though you didn't buy the product, if you bought something from that brand earlier.
Okay.
So you bought Amul butter earlier, and you're searching for cheese. So I might push up Amul cheese, because we know that you're a Amul butter customer. So you sort of you like the brand. So you're most likely to pick Amul cheese, say, over Nandini cheese, for example. So that is the next level of past history, influencing. And the final level, like, I mean, taking that forward, pushing it a little forward, is even if you did not have history with a particular SKU, if we are able to somehow map you to a profile of users who have similar shopping behavior as yours.
Okay.
Let's say you're a health freak and you only buy organic food, and that cohort of customers have recently started experimenting with a particular brand. So then when you search for the product, we may surface that brand to see that if maybe you will also convert. So there is personalization involved in the ranking. We need to do it carefully, because we don't want to skew the results too much based on your past, because then you stop exploring everything else that's in the catalog.
Correct.
So to find that right balance between how much your past influences the results versus what is the best price, what is the best batch, what is the customer ratings. So there are all these like 10-15 dimensions that finally decide which product comes on top in a search result.
So there is one interesting which I also feel like there's whenever I purchase something from any quick commerce app, the past ones always comes at the top, which I ordered, brought earlier, brought 1 month before.
Sure.
That is very interesting thing, because becomes very easier for me to even recall if I have purchased something 2 months before that what I purchased 2 months before.
Right.
That was very interesting. So this happens across apps, I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so. See, there's this whole notion of repeat purchases, right? Like, so if it's soap, laundry, deodorant, so on. It's not like you purchase it once and you're done with it. You need it again and again. So it sort of reminds you that, hey, you're most likely going to run out of, I don't know, either cheese or laundry detergent or whatever. So that you since while you're on the app, why don't you go ahead and make that purchase? So yeah, I think pretty much everyone's trying to understand the frequency of purchase of various SKUs and use that to drive the recommendation.
What is that one scaling myth which every engineer should avoid? People think that my users are increasing, I should increase my server, everything, database, etc. I see this is sometimes a problem also, people think. For you, what you have seen this one?
Like, I think one thing that I've seen people where they tend to over-engineer in anticipation of scale is something I'd like at least teams I work with to avoid. So this whole idea that you need to have a microservices architecture running on Kubernetes with elastic databases fully on the cloud to scale. I don't think it's entirely true. Like, yes, there is a certain scale at which you might need all of it, but a lot of startups never even reach that scale, right? And so and even with monolithic systems with a single database, you can easily scale up to like thousands of transactions per minute. So premature scaling, going into microservices architecture before you need it. I think that is something that I would say is better avoided, because all of this comes with a very high cost. One is the cost of running the infra with so much of parallelism and redundancy, and also the operational cost of running a more complex system than a less one. So what works with a simpler system, keep it simple till the point it's close to breaking, and then at that point you can innovate and solve for the scaling problems, rather than anticipate scale for everything before you actually see that scale.
Very interesting. Just last question, like anything for the today's developers or the engineers, like someone who is in the experience age of 5 to 10 years, like what should one basic thing they need to keep in mind in order to be relevant, actually, I will say, put in that way. And when they are running any kind of bit, like data, they're managing databases, they're managing architecture, they are scaling the products, etc. What is one thing which they need to keep so that they be relevant, they be focused?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's very unique to engineers or it's broadly applicable, I guess, across any kind of profession. Is that you need to continuously invest in your own, self-development and learning, because technology itself is evolving at a very rapid pace, and if you reach a sort of a comfort zone and stop growing as an individual, then there's a risk of becoming stagnating and eventually becoming irrelevant. So the way I look at it is, like, what worked for me in general was every 2 to 3 months I ask myself, did I try out something new? And it need not be always technology. Did I take on a job role that I never took on previously before? Did I take on a new responsibility? So as long as you're putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, as long as you're trying out things that you haven't done before, there is a forced learning, and then this learning sort of compounds over time and gives you that richness of experience, both in terms of breadth and depth, right? And I think that's how I generally think of my career, and hopefully it applies to a lot of people.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Sarat, and thank you so much for being here. And this was very interesting. This was very new for me also. A very interesting topic which we discussed today. And I hope people will get to know something about how this quick commerce or anything related to architecture works. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Rishabh, for having me here. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.